Welcome into Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. My name is Joel Goldberg. That's the same name as every day that I've been here, which is now 85 straight shows. And it is Friday. So happy Friday. You know, for all of us working out of our homes right now, and most of us, not all, but most of us are, it seems like a really great day to stay inside. I actually went out for a run this morning, which I love to say. It's like saying that. Well, it's like trying to convince people that I'm a runner and that I work out, and I'm not. But this was the week that I tried. A little bit of motivation from my guest on Wednesday, Devin Henderson. Devin Henderson. What am I talking about? Devin Hedgepeth, who is a guy that wakes up every morning at 4:30 and works out. Former college football star, heading to Stanford Business School, and I'm never going to be that. But I thought, let's get out there. So I got out there and I ran this morning, and 4 days this week, and it is already hot out there. So I hope everyone will stay safe. I am so glad that my good friend Kiana Sinks, she gave me permission yesterday to use the family and friend nickname Kiki. So good morning. She's already checking in. I've got a great guest today, one that I've met, we think, a couple of times, but it's been a while, and really we've never been able to have the conversation yet, just about business and life and all of that. And so I'm really looking forward to this conversation and excited to bring in right now Nick Ruffin with Maze Freight Solutions. And good morning, Nick. You look nice and comfortable and hopefully air conditioned at home
I
right now.
am. I am. It's weird. You see the back of my room. This beautiful display I have back here used to be my theater room. It is now. It transformed into an office, and
Yep.
now I have a little corner because it's turned into my wife's craft room. So if anyone sees stuff back here, this is not my stuff. This is my
So
wife's stuff. So
so we've already learned something. You are not crafting.
no, that's all my wife's stuff.
You know what's amazing about, among many things about this pandemic, is just the way our space has changed, and not
hmm
just going home, but at any given moment the dog walks in, the kids walk in, what looks like could be your, oh, he's crafting, or I'm
Yeah.
sitting there and there's something on the TV with my wife and daughter that I would never watch. It's just, you make the best of it. And these
Oh yeah.
truly, and I know we'll get into this, I mean, these truly, in every profession, including yours, truly unique times.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you say that. I think we start watching shows we never watched before. Hopefully, people are taking the time to educate themselves in areas where they
Yeah.
may not have. I've found that I'm reading more and studying more and researching information more, not just to better educate myself, but just to learn. So I think this time, although it's been hard for a lot of people, in some ways, I think it could have transformed in some type of blessing if you were smart enough to take advantage of those opportunities.
You know what I think, and we'll start getting the maze freight here in a second. I've been thinking about this lately, in part because I had a CEO a few months ago when I was reaching out to people, and I was
hmm
panicked. I mean, I was panicked like a lot of people, and I suddenly was going to have a paycheck that's supposed to come in 6 months a year starting in April was not going to
hmm
be there. And
hmm
he said to me, just hang on 3 months. Just, tread water like you're in the deep end of a pool and just hang on. And I know
hmm
everyone's situation is different. I need to actually reach out to him because no one knew that baseball would come back the third week of July, but it was almost exactly 3 months. But point is, we got to adjust. I wouldn't wish this upon anyone,
hmm
but as I find myself reflecting these few days as I now see not the light at the end of the tunnel, but that next step, or getting back to baseball, and hopefully
Yeah.
for two months. I find myself reflecting, saying, "Look, I wouldn't wish this upon anyone,
hmm
but man, I've learned a lot. Like I've seen a lot of personal progress or just
Absolutely.
opportunity come of it, and I think that's there for everyone in some form or another. I'm wondering your take on that."
Well, here's the thing. It depends on the type of mindset you have.
Mm,
I think people have in the time that the times that we're in right now. I think you kind of have four different mindsets that you can kind of take advantage of. You can have the dreamer mindset. You can utilize this time to really dream, and I think that's something that everyone has, and it's awesome. But sometimes those dreams can transform into fear, because you're fearful of taking the next step, or to understand all the different things you have to do to be able to make it, which transform into laziness. The entrepreneurial mindset, one that you have, allows you, I believe, to take advantage of hard times and navigate through obstacles. Not everybody has that, but and not to, just put you on a pedestal or anything like that, but shows like this that you have allow people that don't have that mindset to be able to see how to do it. Does that make sense?
It
So
does. It does.
not everybody is, I don't think, not everyone is ready for a pandemic, or not everyone knows how to navigate through a pandemic. But when you have material like yours with rounding the bases, and you have information out there where people can learn from other entrepreneurs on what they have done, then the training starts for everyone else, where you may not have had it in you, but you can see how to do it, and then you can apply it, because if a next wave is coming, they can learn from others. That's kind of my belief on that.
Yeah, no, it's I love the perspective on that, and I also think, and this is just what, look, we're either wired this way or we're not, that being an optimist, being positive helps. It just does. I mean, you got so much going against us. You're always battling. I mean, we all are. I don't care what we do, and so that's a great perspective. And I thought too, and I didn't. I'll turn this back on you here in a second, but I didn't start this show with that necessarily in mind, but there was a really deep comment made yesterday by my guest, Frank Clay Jr., who is a business coach, a consultant, is the president of our local chapter of the National Speakers Association, and he'd written a memoir, and so we were talking about his life, and he made the comment about not just rounding the bases, but touching all of the bases, and he made this comment that when he was a kid, he was playing baseball and he skipped second base and ran right to third, and the coach told him, "You got to go back," and he said, "I didn't know." And he said, "Nobody ever told me to touch all the bases." And so I started thinking, maybe that's what this is, like maybe that. So I don't know, but I've loved having conversations like this, and Parks, it's enabled me to get to know people like you a little bit better. So I think, for me, when I think about logistics, when I think about freight logistics, I think, well, there's one industry that's completely unaffected by this, because you guys are still essential, but I know it's not that easy, because it's not a point A to point B. There's so much involved, and so many elements out of your hands that you have had to adjust to. So what have you learned, and how have you guys adjusted over the last few months?
So what you just said, I drank that Kool-Aid for many years. I've been in this industry since 2003. I took about a 4-year hiatus to help other businesses scale. But before then, I always thought that this is an industry that could not be disrupted. And if it is disrupted, it's only disrupted by technology. Same thing I thought about the merchant services industry. So regardless of how bad it gets, people will just transform from shipping out full truckload shipments to just one pallet. That was my thought. This pandemic helped wake me up a lot, because with Maze Freight, we don't just help ship, things you may see, on a pup truck or a small pallet. We work with freight forwarders who are shipping things from overseas, from China and from other different areas of the world. They shut down. I had a major freight forwarder where they stopped shipping. And then you also have to keep in mind, now those freight forwarders are shipping raw material to manufacturers. Because of the pandemic, manufacturers are now having to shut down, because maybe someone had COVID-19, so now they have to shut down the factory to make sure everyone else is safe. And sorry, I have a teaching background, so if it seems like I'm teaching, please forgive me, people.
That's good. That's good.
But now you have your manufacturers who can't ship to the distributors, and the distributors now can't ship to your local retail stores, and now you don't have toilet paper. Kind of give an idea. But that's the flow. So now you don't just have one area of opportunity that stops shipping. All of your different areas are reducing the amount of freight that they're moving. And that eventually, as a broker and logistics company such as ourselves, it affects us, it affects our customers, it affects the drivers who need to drive this freight, because now there's no shipments on the road. So I drank that Kool-Aid that we're unstoppable in this industry, but we learned very quickly that, a virus does not care and it's going to get everybody.
Right. And so I've said one thing over and over again. I don't care whether you are a billionaire, which
Hmm.
I'd love to find out exactly how that
I
feels.
know, right?
Right? We'd all like to be there. Or or if you're someone trying to put a roof over your head.
Hmm.
And obviously I think we all know where the easier spot to be is, but no one has gone to bed during this pandemic,
No.
regardless of their race, their religion, their
Hmm.
financial status,
Hmm.
without stress.
Exactly.
And,
Exactly.
and I know we all have stress in life, but everyone's affected. I mean, even the billionaire that's sitting back, kicking back on his yacht or whatever, however that looks, suddenly has disruption here, and they're
Hmm.
having to rely on some elements they haven't before. And so,
Yeah.
in your, what you're describing, and by the way, don't ever, I know you have a teaching background, but don't ever stop with that instructor teacher's mode,
I
because
appreciate it.
that's
I
how
can
we all
overtalk,
learn.
so
Well,
shoot
look,
me a text message or a comment if I'm talking too much. Just send me a private message like, Nick, slow down.
Nick, I would say that no one, if you're in a room with me, will ever accuse you of talking too much. So
Okay.
we all need to worry about that. Anyone that knows me knows that I can't tell anyone they talk too much. So
Okay,
we're
good
all
deal.
good. We're all good there. But when you describe all those elements of logistics and all of the pieces that come into place,
Hmm.
it very much reminds me of a sports team or a baseball team. And not everything needs to get back to baseball in my world, but when you start looking at what enables a team to be right, and the way that the scouting has to work and the medical
Hmm.
has to work, and
Hmm.
and everything. I mean, in the Royals case, that's a huge operation, obviously, but they said something like over 1,200 Zoom calls during the pandemic. That's not calling Salvador Perez 25 times a week. That's
Hmm.
that's the the minor league pitching coordinator getting 10 guys into a breakout session, or that's so there's a lot of pieces that have to work to get to ultimately where you want to be.
Yeah.
So when you have disruption like you have, and we're seeing that in everything,
Hmm.
how were you guys able to pivot and make that adjustment?
So I think we had a little bit of an unfair advantage, and it's because this is my wheelhouse. So
Mm-hmm.
quick background for me. I started off in sales. At freightquote.com. If
Mm-hmm.
everyone in Kansas City knows about that company, was in management, corporate training, and then I started back in 2014 doing consulting for some businesses. One business actually headhunted me over and pulled me over, and I want to make sure that I'm responsible in how I say this. I had the opportunity of working with a business owner that was not savvy with making the right business decisions or running a business and managing people. And
Right.
because of that, I was able to really learn what to do, what not to do. A lot of issues may arise, and I had to figure out the best way to be efficient, navigate through those issues, keep the owner of the business on time with making the right decisions in his business, and then also keeping the executive team happy. So I learned a lot about business through seeing how business should not be run in some cases. So with that, I found out what my passion was, and it was helping businesses scale and figuring out more efficient ways of doing things, doing the heart of issues. So earlier this year, in adding more to the question than what you asked me, we were on a trajectory of doing 3 to possibly 4 times what we did in 2019. We had just finished finishing up our agreement with the Full Employment Council. So that way we can start bringing in and training people in our industry who didn't know about the industry, because a lot of people don't know how much money can be made in logistics. We just hired on our W-2 employee through the Full Employment Council. We started bringing on new agents. Things were going great. And then, boom, pandemic, shut down, all these things started happening.
Mm-hmm.
So this is for me, this is not new. It wasn't new for me to have my back against the wall and figure out the best ways of doing things, and that's exactly what I did. And then I'm working with someone like Jaiwan Mays, who is the owner of Mays Freight, who she wrote a book called Childlike Ambition, and she has that childlike ambition. So like a baby who is falling down, they see everyone else walking, they're going to continue to get back up to figure out how to walk. That's how Jai is. So during the pandemic, I have a partner who there is no such thing as no, and there is no such thing as failure. She's going to continue to try to make the best out of everything. And then with myself, we were able to really sit down and see what was needed in our business and what was not. We were able to understand that, you know, we don't need to spend the money in all these areas anymore. We can utilize systems like Zoom to communicate via satellite. We can get rid of these programs. And here's the most important thing for anyone that's listening that has a business, figuring out the current programs that you have and what those programs can do. Because I believe that many of us, when we are on a trajectory to do great things with our business, we also start to spend money on things that we actually really don't need because it's the coolest and the newest thing and it makes us look great as a business. When in a lot of cases, you have all the programs and tools you need. So really what we did was we figured out the tools that we had, we figured out how those tools can help us out, and then we start to think about ways that we can still grow, still train, still give other people opportunities, even in the midst if the pandemic continue to go on throughout the rest of the year. So that's pretty much, I mean, it wasn't something that was new for us to figure out a way around it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I mean, so you were well positioned to be able to do that, and I want to talk to you about certainly Mays Freight and Jai and the partnership that you guys have in just a
Mm-hmm.
little bit. But let me get back to your background too, and vice president of operations and managing partner
Mm-hmm.
at Mays Freight, and you had that background. You talked about consulting, but that background in sales,
Mm-hmm.
in HR, in training. How has that all come together to work for you at Mays Freight in a company that is, I'm guessing, because it's a little bit smaller in terms of
Mm-hmm.
employees, that you've
Mm-hmm.
got to be very hands on with so much.
Yeah. So I found out a few years ago that Jai, when she started the business back in 2017, she wanted to bring me over back then, but she saw what I was doing before, so she didn't bring it to my attention. But she did tell my mom about it. So it was weird. She planted that seed with my mom. She did tell my mom about it, and then my mom kind of brought it to me. But having having the experience, Jai, it's the best way of saying it. Jai had the years of experience when it comes to the freight industry. She had started receiving awards. She had the opportunity to go through Scale Up, Kansas City Business Journal, things currently with Birchbox. But I think the one piece that she was missing was the operations piece, figuring out an easier way of actually doing things, reducing the amount of systems that she's currently using right now. So when I stopped with the merchant services industry, I saw Jai on the internet. It was like, wow, what is she doing? So I reached out to her and found out how things were going. We had a meeting. I saw some opportunities for the business and she saw where I could actually fit in to be able to help out. And then history, I guess, was made from there. So my job, and I want to make sure that I answer your question. My job will always be hands-on currently right now. My job would always be to figure out ways to make things more efficient, to figure out ways how our company can be the next disruption in this industry, whether it's a new system to make things easier for the customers or a new way of showing people how to be a business owner within our company. So I think I help. I think I answered
Yeah,
your question on there.
yeah. No, I mean it's interesting, and for me, kind of getting back to a little bit of these pivots and what you've been able to do. I'm just curious from having a smaller number of people to communicate with, but everybody, I think, probably going home,
Hmm.
um, what that challenge was like for you, Is it easier having a smaller group? I mean, I've found that the best companies, no matter what field they're in, that have 1,000 employees or whatever it is, have really had to over communicate because of the distance, and then dealing with that Zoom fatigue, which everybody is going
Yeah.
through now too. What have been the challenges that you've had to deal with that?
Well, I think a smaller company such as ourselves, we have a more of an advantage, and I think the reason why we have an advantage because we are in an area where we can take a little bit more control over the type of people that we have. When you have under, I want to say, 25 or 10 or less people, you more than likely have built a culture based around the core values that you have. You're not just hiring to fill seats, you're hiring to be able to match how you operate. And that's an advantage for us. So for Maze Freight to say we're going to have a Zoom call, we don't have the backlash of a Fortune 500 company that has thousands of people, where you now have to deal with different personalities, different situations. We have a more personal touch with our people. It's more of a family mentality. I'm calling and talking to people more often and asking them, how are your kids doing? How are you doing? So we don't have that role to navigate dealing with that. But now, advice to the people who are dealing with those type of situations, I would say figure out a way to be able to make it fun. Figure out a way, if you have that many people, figure out a way where the people that are having to get on these Zoom calls have some type of sense of ownership. Give certain duties, give certain jobs, because everyone loves to be in the spot. Well, most people, should I say, like to be in the spotlight. Most people like to be able to have control. So if you're having those type of issues and you're having those type of problems, figure out a way of being able to give people a sense of ownership when adopting a new idea. Give people the opportunity to give their thoughts on how things need to look. And I think in that way, you'll have a better outcome with anything new, because you're going to deal with that inertia. So I think you'll have a better outcome with that.
I want to go back and share real quick. I did this when you were talking about Jai. It seemed like the natural shot to put up, since I'm the director of this show too. And so we see, you mentioned Jaiwan Mays, president of Maze Freight, but I love right above here, certified woman-owned small business, certified minority-owned small business.
Yes.
So you got the double whammy there, and I say that in the best of ways. What does that mean in terms of who you guys are? I'm asking the man here that's on this call, but what does that mean? But a minority. What does it mean to be female owned and minority owned?
Man, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And yes, I am a man saying that. It is a beautiful thing. And I'll tell you why. Fortunately, it's something we're able to take advantage of. I know that Jai won an award all the way in Florida earlier this year, right before the pandemic. And it was because, someone in Florida was looking for a logistics company because they had a certain amount of opportunities, but it had to go to a woman-owned business. So being a minority woman-owned business allows opportunities for government contracts, which we were able to land a government contract because of it. It allows for opportunity that has the set-asides for those minority or woman-owned. And then also a big thing is Jai is a disruption. There are some out there, but not like Jai is doing it. Jai is not only woman, but she's minority, a woman owned, and she's doing it on her own. She doesn't have any handouts. She's just boots to the ground, digging in, making calls. And then what she does is she brings in the right people to be able to help out. So I have been fortunate enough to be able to take advantage of that minority woman-owned business stature. So Jai, if you're watching, thank you. Because I don't have you help me out, but it also helps out every agent, because it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman working as an agent for the company. You too are now able to say that I work for minority woman owned. And then what sometimes can happen is those businesses may say, oh, wow, I have some set asides that need to go directly here.
It's a competitive advantage in many ways, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, to be able to set yourself up first and foremost, and this is true. And obviously, by the way, you're speaking about Jai. She's amazing at what she does.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be good at what you do. You can't just say, "Hey, we're whatever owned." I mean, you got to earn that. So she obviously has. You guys have, but now you've got that competitive advantage of being different than so
Exactly.
many others, which is I think, as you mentioned, really a beautiful thing. A question came in from Kiana. How has this role of supply chain and management impacted you as a black man in senior roles where social injustice displays how we aren't shown in those lights? That's an interesting question. And, you know, you and I will talk a little bit about the racial discussion issues in this country, which are still going, and I think will be for a long time. But as you and I have discussed, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to continue talking about it. But
Yeah. And I will want to
I
answer
know,
that one. Can I answer that one
yeah,
real quick,
please
or did
do.
you?
And then
Okay.
because
Yeah.
I wanted to lead you to some of the videos and what you guys are doing, but let's hit Kiana's question first.
Kiana, so the I it may not be something you want to hear, but being a black person, a man in a senior role, because I have an opportunity to be a partner in the company, I have a lot more say so in, I guess, how I'm affected in this industry. I will say this: more Jai and I both have had business owners actually call us to ask us for advice. Jai and I have had people to ask us, you know, what should I do with everything that's going on? The biggest thing that we normally tell people is number one, love your neighbor, treat people the way you want to be treated. But also in this industry, I think for us, we've had more people be a lot more open to listen to us when we are calling out to gain more business. More people during this time have listened to us to want to know more about our company and want to be able to support the company, because I mean, it is hard out there. It's hard. It's hard in this industry regardless, but it is harder out here in this industry when you are a minority. But I think that myself and especially Jai has taken advantage of opportunities that we're able to take advantage of, and we haven't allowed the injustice to push us back. We haven't allowed the mentality of some to really have a placement in our industry. So we take it upon ourselves to do what needs to be done. Things are going to happen. Things that we don't like are going to be out there, but we're still pushing forward. And our mentality is to figure out a way out of no way. The same way with the pandemic. The pandemic is hurting people. We're going to figure out a way to navigate through it. These things are happening out here in the world. We're going to figure out a way through it. We're going to educate people. We're going to do what we need to do. And at the end of the day, we will be successful.
I love that. It's an amazing resiliency. And so I know you were telling me that you guys are doing a lot in terms of these discussions, and really, I wouldn't say pivoting, but utilizing, I think, as we all need to,
Mm-hmm.
the beauties of YouTube and technology and
Yeah.
video. So tell me a little bit about what you guys are doing there.
So what happened was, and I'm going to, you'll see that I love giving people credit where credit's due. So again, Jai has this book called of Childlike Ambition. And she's actually pushed me to start on my book called Creatures of Healthy Habits, and also my own personal YouTube page. And this is Jai, just to kind of give an idea. Jai is the type of person that she's a dreamer. So she has an idea, but she skips over the fear and she skips over everything else. And then she just starts to do. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. She just does it. And I love that about her. She just starts. She puts one foot in front of the other. So we're going through and we're trying to figure out how, you know, what is our next step with the pandemic? What are we going to do? What changes we need to make? And then all of a sudden she said, we need to start educating people, other business owners, about the EIDL and the PPP in the industry. And for carriers, we need to give them a voice. Let's figure out a way to give people a voice. And we said, yeah, we can go ahead and start the Maze Freight Happy Hour show. So for anyone that wants to watch, it's called the Maze Freight Happy Hour show. And this is a Monday, Joel. And she said, okay, cool. Let's do our first show this week. I'm like, huh? I'm like, wait a second, we got to put this together. We got to put that together. And we got to get mics and lights and we got to put a script together. She was like, no, let's just do it and we'll just work on it. So for me, I'm always, let's put everything together. For Giants, let's start and then we'll fix it along the way. That's the beauty of how she works. Yeah, it's awesome. So where she was able to get me out of my comfort zone of trying to make sure that everything was perfect. And then lo and behold, we talked about it on a Monday. I don't even think we waited until Thursday. We did our first show on Wednesday and had it post on Thursday. And that show was all about the EIDL and the PPP loan. And we had the opportunity right when the pandemic started to educate business owners and entrepreneurs, what was needed, how to sign up for this stuff, how to get funded, and we got a lot of great feedback from it. And then from there, we just started posting shows every single week. So I just have to say that having that childlike ambition is something else. When you get rid of the fear and that you have something that can help other people out, I'll tell everybody out there, just start. No, it's not going to be perfect, but unfortunately, if you wait for everything to be perfect, that perfect will change to fear. That fear will transform into laziness. That laziness will transform into I wish I could have or I wish I would have. So,
this is so interesting to me because, first off, obviously the two of you guys are able to balance each other very well. I'm guessing once she's ready to go, she's going. So
she's going.
So
sometimes I say, wait a second, let's look at this, and this, and it helps out. But then also when I'm so much looking at everything, she can pull me like, nah, Nick, come on, let's go.
So I think that's good. I am more like Jai, I would say, in let's just go. And I think there are benefits to all of it. I wanted to share one more thing here, and I hit the wrong, but you'll like this, and it'll give us a chance to promote the podcast a little bit. Let's see if I could find where I pulled that up. I thought I had it up. Here we go. So there you guys are.
Oh man, that was in the early days when you could see. Okay, see, I just started. You see how the camera looks on there? How dim and dark, and it was horrible. But we grew. But yeah. That is one of them.
You know what? You have to start somewhere. And one of the messages I've given in a lot of my virtual speeches is to stop seeking perfection. And we all want to be perfect and take messy action.
I like that. I like that.
And if I had on my end, and I'll give you this example. I've been doing this show now for, said 85 episodes and speeches and all that right out of what's a walk-in closet. It's worked. It's not the best of spaces, but it's worked. And I think I'm working on converting a spare bedroom into a little bit of a nicer studio. And I'm hoping on Monday there might be a different look. But that's 3 months later. And if I were to wait for that, it would have been day one. So I think that we all, if we're successful, we all have this desire to get things right, of course. But sometimes it can hold us back. So to me, that's been a lesson that I've learned in a time where we are having to figure some things out on the fly. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't have the Nick Ruffin in the fold to help, rein things in and think things through. But I really, to me, it sounds like you guys have a phenomenal balance between the two of you in running this company, which is awesome. So let's wrap things up with this. Okay. I wouldn't call it the next pivot, but the next potential development is the second wave. So we're all going to whatever. We don't know what that looks like. There are all kinds of issues going on. We know that right now in this country, and way too many politics becoming part of health, in my opinion. But we do know that there will be something to deal with. Yes. So how are you? I'm not saying no one planned for the pandemic in March. But the greatest of planners couldn't have expected this to look like it did. And most of us had never thought about a pandemic. So we've been through it now. What can you take from these last 3 months to implement going forward? And what have you talked about in the future?
Okay. Little bit of a joke, but I can tell you one thing I'm planning for. I don't want to be a 4th grade teacher this year. I can tell you that. I know that's not dealing with business, but I have twins. I became a third grade teacher this year. It wasn't fun. But for anybody out there that has kids that had to become a teacher, I'm going to tell you what we're going to do, but I'm going to tell you something that you can do at home. Do what you did for your kids. Everyone, it doesn't matter if you owned a business or not. Everyone had to make a change with your children. You became a teacher at the end of the day, some kind of way, shape, form. And many of us, I know now that no one is going to complain anymore when you have to go out there and shop for the teacher for all the little knick-knack stuff and the blue folders and everything out there. You're going to do it with pride this year. I know that for a fact. But so I say that because I am going to Jai and I are taking the same effects that we took when it came to, making changes for our children, because the things that we did for our kids can actually transform or translate over to your employees. I'm not saying treat your employees like kids, but look at the care that you had to give to them and how you made things easier for your children and more susceptible to digest for your children being locked in. So what we're doing is we're going to hire starting in September this year. We are going to put in place a way for our agents not to have a place of employment, but a place to be able to run their own business. We are going to change our model from employer-employee to Maze Freight Solutions business owner. We're going to train. We're going to have a place to be able to train safely. But then from there, we want people to be able to work from home. We're going to use a book there's a book that I love called the A-Player Profile. We're going to use the A-Player Profile techniques. And for anyone out there, it's a great book on how to hire the right people for what you're doing. So we're changing up our hiring technique. We're going to hire the people that fits the type of job function that we want to provide to people. And we're going to teach people how to run a business. So you're going to be able to do that safely from your home, because just in case there are going to be people that they won't be able to take their kids back to school. We want to provide an opportunity for you to be able to handle things at home and be able to grow your business. We want to be able to help train people in this industry who want to be trained in this industry. And it's been, like I said, a blessing for us, because opposed to us at the beginning of the year, when we were getting ready to move to a new place because we needed a bigger area, and we're looking at all these phone systems and we're looking at all these programs that we needed to be able to house all these folks that we want to have in place. Now we're figuring out ways we're able to not only save money, but give people more freedom. They feel like they have, well, not feel like, but they do have more ownership in what they do. And I personally believe we're able to give some more support. Joel, I'll even ask this question for you. It's a statement and a question. I don't know about you, but I feel like I've been able to have more conversations with people now than I have before. I'm not trying to figure out, where can we meet? Can we meet at Starbucks? What time can we meet? Is that time good for you? Is it good for me? Right now, the way things are, I have now connected with more people than I ever have before. And that's going to be able to translate over into the business.
I could not agree with you anymore. Sometimes everybody goes with that 110%, which we know literally is not possible. Whatever's more than 100%, if that's possible, that's where I agree with you on that. I have talked with more people, and I've never been busier than I have been. Some of the adjustment is remembering that it's not a bad thing. It's actually a healthy thing to maybe allow yourself 10 to 15 to 30 minutes in between a meeting that you would have for drive time to just unwind or decompress or think about what you just did.
Yeah.
I'm still learning that. But in doing that, it's from one to one to one to one to one all day long.
Yeah.
And I'm connecting with people in ways that I didn't do before. And certainly it's leading to me doing more virtual speaking and all that. And that's only happened because of the ability to have more conversations and to be able to do them in a way like, whether it's this, I say that this show is just a live streaming Zoom call between two people, or three or four people. I think that, but I love that you guys are digging deeper. That okay, if we're gonna go home, we now know how to work home, but we need to enable people to do that at their best and take care of what else is there at home. So I mean, that's a huge step, I think, going forward in the world.
One other thing, I forget the report that I was reading, but statistics were showing that people are actually becoming more productive at home. People are able to take care of a lot more things, and it kind of depends on your, like, again, how you run your business. And I saw that Kiana was saying something about no micromanage. If you are a micromanager, this is probably not the best time for you. But um, for leaders who know how to lead, or that want their employees to feel like that, they have a family within their company, this should be some of the best times for them. You should be able to you're giving your employees a lot more freedom to be able to do what it is that they can do, and during the time that they need to do. So, I mean, there's a lot of bad things that have happened during this time, but you have to really look for the benefits out there.
Totally agree.
You just have to.
Yep, totally agree. And that's I mean, there's some survival element to that, but more than that, I think that's just pushing forward and being productive, and that's true in life, regardless. We I did get this post in there, just I think more of a like. So I see the Ruffin name there. So
that's my mom.
Is that mom? I figured.
That's my mom. Hey, mom.
I figured it was your mom, because you did reference your mom before.
Yes, she retired for the third time in her life. You talk about a woman who, boy, she keeps going. I love her to death. My mom and my dad, those are two people that really, I would say, put the foundation in me to, want to do more, want to be an entrepreneur, and to not be afraid to work. She had me working at the St. Luke's Hospital at the age of 13 doing, I was a volunteer at the hospital at the age of 13. I think she did that on purpose, because immediately after that, I couldn't wait to get a real job to make money. I couldn't keep, it was like, I'm doing this for free. I need to make some money. We got to figure something else out here. So.
Oh, that's actually funny. My last question was going to be about, we could still go there, was going to be about just what you sort of do away from work. You mentioned the twins, and I had on my research sheet that you volunteered at St. Luke's. I don't know if that was just childhood or if that's as an adult in child care. But what do you do when you're trying to decompress and get away from the chaos of Maze Freight?
Oh man, I can't. I'm addicted to Maze Freight, to be truthful. Outside of that, I would say this, and my wife told me that I can indulge myself a little bit too much in work. I think the pandemic allowed me to appreciate my family more. I started doing things that, just hanging out with my family, like eating at the table with them. That helps me decompress. Sitting down now, the things we did back in the 80s and 90s. I remember back in the day where you would sit down as a family and watch a TV show. That's what we did. We don't do that anymore. I have my kids are only 9. One is in one room doing something, the other's in another room. I'm doing my own thing. My wife is doing something, but now we sit down as a family and we watch a show together.
Yeah.
I am now making sure that I spend time with my son to play Fortnite with him, different things like that.
Yeah.
But then outside of that, things that kind of calm me down is, figuring out the next step. I mean, it calms me down to figure out the next step on how to help other people in their businesses and stuff like that. Yeah. So that helps me out.
Yeah,
but
no, it's awesome.
Family.
I mean, I can relate to it, and I've got 2 teenagers. It becomes harder, but when there was nowhere for them to go, and now they've got to pick some spots and be careful as much as teenagers are going to be. But it was we were watching. They wanted to watch every Marvel movie from
awesome.
The first to the end. I will say, and if my wife is watching right now, she's not, I'm sure, but if she was watching right now, she would say, you didn't watch every Marvel movie. You were sitting there working on your phone the whole time. So I think I'm a little bit like you in that, like, it's peaceful for me to be able to get all that stuff done. But there was something I'm not as present, or wasn't as present as I should have been. But for a guy that hasn't been home with my kids in their 15 and 17 years of life ever during the summer, or my being home means coming home from Kauffman Stadium for a home game at midnight and going back and doing it again the next day, to have actually been sitting on the couch for the better part of a couple of months or a month and a half. Once things opened up a little bit, it was like, can we watch this movie? Oh, gotta go. I'm like, we just watched 30 minutes. So that's the true teenage story. But it was really amazing just to be able to, even if I wasn't fully engaged in the movie and bad attention, we were all sitting together. It was nice. And so you're there. And so it's something. It's something that I'll remember forever in this pandemic. And I will let your mom have the last word, who has said that you were a great volunteer.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's awesome. Is she able to speak, or is she type? What does she do?
I think it looks to me like she's just typing that into Facebook. So we won't bring her into the conversation other than to say that Dorothy, you got a great kid. He's not a kid anymore, but he's your kid forever. So
always.
Yeah, that never changes.
I will. Yeah.
And I was gonna say, Dorothy, don't come out of retirement like a fourth time. Like go and enjoy things now. She
already started back doing something. She retired all of 2-3 days, Mom, and then she I think she's getting into some type of investment type thing. So
good. I know where you got it from.
Yeah. I did before you closed, because I know that we were you were talking about some of the things real quick, and I know hopefully I'm not going over time. Joe, let me know if I am.
This is like the first time in my life that I don't have a producer yelling at me in my ear. So that'll start next week when I'm back to basebon.
Okay, good. I do wanted to say something, because I know before the show you and I talked a little bit about some of the things that are happening currently right now out there, and I do want to tell people that Jai and I both we published a show called Love Thy Neighbor, and If So How, to kind of talk to some of those things. Because I do know that some people have some of those questions. Here is something for everyone out there, because I do know that there is a difference of opinion. Some people think one way, other people think another way. Without giving my opinion, I will share this with folks. First off, you're not always necessarily right. And this is for myself. And I think that's the number one problem that we go into. We'll go into a discussion, we'll go into an argument, we'll go into a debate, and the very first thing we have in our mind is that we're always right. And it's because I do believe we utilize more of our own personal truths, our personal beliefs, our political truths, our religious truths and beliefs, and we utilize that, and we are scared to kind of amend our own belief system. And what happens with that, ladies and gentlemen, is that you start to operate through conditioning. So it makes it hard to be able to check your ego after that. Please understand that by you seeing what another person's thought process or ideas are, it doesn't diminish you as a person. Okay. It just you're looking for objective truth. And if you're looking for objective truth, it's easier for you to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. It's easier for you to be able to understand where the other person's coming from. And even after all that, if the person that you're talking to doesn't understand where you're coming from and doesn't agree with you, it does not make that person evil. It just means you guys have a different of an opinion, and maybe that person is still thinking off of conditioning. So I want to put that out there for people that are in this area where you have this belief and you know that what you believe is true, and you're not wanting to listen to what someone else is listening to. It does not diminish you to, amend your belief system. So I just wanted to leave people with that.
I think that's amazing, and I'm glad you got us there. But love thy neighbor. I mean, haven't we always been taught that? And it could also be said, walking in someone else's shoes, curiosity. Guess what? It's a very positive, strong-willed character trait to be curious.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what happens when you ask questions and learn more about other people. And you don't have to be the expert, but we none of us know everything.
Yeah.
So,
and it's not about getting it right. It's about it's not about being right. It's about getting it right at the end of the day. So
I couldn't agree again with you more. We're on the same page with this. So Nick, this was awesome. Congratulations to you and to Jai, to Maze Freight. I'm excited for what lies ahead. Sounds like you very positioned for whatever curveball comes your way and our way next, because you know it's coming in some form
Yes,
or another. And to know that has to provide some comfort and challenge too in trying to
absolutely.
get this right. So again, I will remind people. I also want to thank your mom, uh, Dorothy, for chiming in. That's awesome. I love that stuff, man. I mean, like, that's we could talk business all day long, but now when you start getting mom involved, that's where
Hmm.
you learn more about people and learn about those family values and
Yeah,
and how you turned out the way you did, how I turned out the way I did today. I credit my parents all the time for um, just learning how to treat people right
absolutely.
and to me what I consider a lot of the foundations of who I am. If people want to find out more about Maze Freight, they can do so at
Hmm.
mazefreightsolutions.com. Nick, I appreciate you spending time. Good luck with
Thank
those
you,
twins. They will keep you on your toes for
boy.
many, many years, and that is not a bad thing.
Yeah, you start next week, right? You're back out there next week.
Yeah, back out
Okay.
there next week. So I know there won't be fans, but you know what? I think people are just going to be happy
Yeah.
to have some baseball. So we've got this just like this, like boom. Monday I finished up a show here, and I look at my phone, and it's like Royals have added 3 exhibition games Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, all televised on Fox Sports Kansas City. I'm like, whoa, all right, I think I'm going
Time
back
to
to work, and which
go.
is crazy
Nice.
because the we already had the 2021 schedule. I mean,
Hmm.
baseball is so scheduled out, but because of the last minute nature to all this, we were literally finding out days next week after already knowing next year. But then the real thing starts next Friday, a week from. I'll have those, and I don't really get nervous, but that's the one day.
Yeah.
You wake up on opening day. I never thought I'd
Yeah.
wake up on July 24th opening day, and it'll be my first opening day not actually being there in person because they'll be in
Hmm.
Cleveland and we will all broadcast. We have a meeting today. We will all broadcast from certain spots at Kauffman Stadium. It's not perfect.
Nice.
It's not ideal, but you know what? It's back to work,
I will be
and
listening. I will be
and
ready.
we are all ready. Nick, appreciate you spending the time today. Hang tight for just a second,
Yes, sir.
and again, congratulations to you and Jai and Maze Freight on the success and everything that lies ahead.
Thank you so much.
All right, Nick Ruffin from Maze Freight Solutions. And that's going to do it for another episode of Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. Hashtag no stopping you. If you're in Kansas City, stay cool this weekend. It is going to be heat advisory hot. If we get into a heat advisory in Kansas City, you know it's really bad because we're used to the heat. So stay safe, everyone, in terms of this pandemic. Wear those masks. I know it's hot and uncomfortable. And have a great weekend. And I'll see you back here on Monday for another edition of Rounding the Bases Live.